This is Rob.
And John.
And Steve.
And Brian.
Of Division 1.1. And you are listening to SNDP Podcast on the Schmucks Sports Network.
Welcome to episode 67 of the SNDP Podcast show on the Schmucks Sports Network. Dan, what's going on this week?
Not much. How's it going tonight, Steve? Today was a crazy day in the NHL world with the trading deadline freezing today at 3 o'clock. A lot of moves, a lot of mixed reviews for both Islander fans and Ranger fans. We're going to have Dan Friedman on tonight and talk about what the Islanders did and didn't do and what he thinks about the Rangers' moves. What else is going on?
And the Islander moves, of course.
Yeah.
We'll also talk about what's up and coming for the New York Islanders and New York Rangers with him as well. And I want to talk about this extra point talk they're talking about a little bit.
Okay.
Are you supportive of removing it or moving it back?
I would definitely move it back. I probably would have not moved it back to the 43-yard line.
Oh, 43-yarder.
Yeah, that's what I mean. I wouldn't move it back to a 43-yarder. But honestly, it's better than what it would be with the automatic at the 10-yard line, at the 2-yard line. It would definitely add a crazy element to the game. That's for sure. I agree. If you listen to the Rich Eisen podcast this week, free agent punter Pat McAfee was on, and he made a good point of it. It would probably be 100%, close to 100% as well, since it's dead on. But it would definitely add a element, especially if it's a windy day or something like that. But the whole thing is, what would you do with the 2-point conversion? Is it still going to be on the 2-yard line as well? Because if that's the case, and if it's a crappy weather day, I would see a lot more people go for 2 opposed to going for 1, right?
Well, first off, they're going to want to go for 2 a little bit more, especially later in the season. Yeah, you'll see a lot more 2s. But I say you leave it on the 2 for the 2-point conversion because if you really think about it, you don't really see a lot of conversions in those.
Yeah, unless you're Danny Ware back in the day, the handoff.
Still.
No, honestly, it's something up for discussion. I really like how the NFL has a committee, and they're pretty good. They're pretty spot on majority of the time. So I know what they're gonna do, what's right for the game. Might not necessarily be a popular vote, but at the end of the day, it is for the popularity of the game and making sure everybody that plays it and coaches it and watches it is going to be able to like that rule. So I think it's going to be definitely interesting to see what happens when the player, the owners when that happens. Definitely going to be interesting.
Who's any of the other rules?
The other rule is that they might extend the playoffs to 1 extra team, which I'd be
it's basically one bye. One team gets a bye.
Yeah, one team gets a bye. It would be multiple games on Saturday and Sunday. I was listening.
2 versus
7 and so on and so on and so on.
If you can do that, you might as well just make it the 8. You have 2 byes and have 3 games during the weekend.
They'll work it out if there's an extra team. Some years, this year was the rare year that they actually needed it. But in other years, you really don't need it. So it's if you do, it's gonna water it down just a little bit. Granted, I'm sure if the Giants were in the Arizona Cardinals situation this year, I'd be pretty pissed off about it as well. But it's gonna be interesting. It's definitely gonna be interesting to see if they would go ahead with it. I think more owners would do that because of value on making the playoffs and how much money revenue would be going if they get that one more team gets that home game, extra home game per se.
Yeah, it'd be interesting.
But
to
if
see
I
how
was
they
a
do
2
it,
seed,
though.
I would be pretty pissed though.
Right. If
it was the first year, I would be pretty pissed about it.
If you're a team like the Patriots, who gets a bye every year, now you just have to play harder because you don't know if you're going to get the bye.
Yeah, it's just one of those weird things. If it happened this year, it just would have. This year was one of those rare years that it would have been nice to have, but in certain years.
So basically, there would be 2 more wild card teams if you really want to think about it.
No, just 1. Oh, for each conference.
Each conference, there'd be 2 more. How would that play out? Who would get the home games? 2, 3, 4 would get home games, and 5, 6, 7 would be on the road.
Correct. Yeah.
All right. I mean, I can see that in the future.
Well, obviously, you have the 2 division winners. Yeah, the 3 division winners.
3 division winners, and then basically
3 wild cards.
Basically, the NFC West versus the AFC West in the postseason.
It could happen. The way it could be the next couple of years, yes. It's definitely interesting. It's all pipeline talks, but it's something that's been leaked out that could happen. It probably would happen not this year coming up. It would happen next year.
It would definitely be next year. Also, by the way, next year, not this year. but the Browns are coming out with cutting-edge uniforms.
Yeah, I heard about that. They're going to still be poopy green on the field and off it.
I said you might as well just put a big thing of poop right on the side. You know the emoji from the iPhones? Just put that on the side of their helmet with the smiley, with a mean face instead of the smiley.
I got your take the other day with the Buccaneers. What did you think about the Buccaneers jerseys? I don't know. I'm not a big fan.
I don't like the white one.
I don't like the white one.
Especially the numbering in the white one because you can see the boxes, how they're all boxy.
Yeah.
The home ones, the red, I like a little bit more because you don't see those lines going through the numbers.
Problem is they don't wear the red ones enough.
I feel like they're going to wear them more. They'll wear them enough at home now.
Hopefully. I don't know.
I still say go back to the creamsicles.
Nah, they were bad when they wore those, so gotta stay with the pewter.
And also the logo on their pants was really small compared to the helmet.
What I don't like is the word Bucks written out on one of the shoulder pad sides. That didn't really make sense to me.
I knew they were coming out with the jerseys because when they introduced the helmet, they showed double logos.
Yeah, of course.
So you kind of knew they were going to have to do something with that pirate, put that pirate chip somewhere. I'm more eager to see how big that logo fits at the 50. Does it go 20 to 20 like NFL Memmy said?
Maybe.
It's a huge logo.
Yeah.
I do like the helmets though.
The helmets are nice. I like the chrome. It is what it is. It's funny how we're talking about football in March. But
I do also like, by the way, someone tweeted out after they released jerseys, Greg Schiano's last decision as a Buccaneers coach with those jerseys.
Yeah, I don't know.
I like the idea of the Nike jerseys and going cutting edge, but I didn't like this one. The Seahawk ones are still the best ones in the league.
Yeah, Seahawk ones are still the best one.
And of course, the classics.
Yeah, the classics are the classics. You gotta stay simple with that.
But this week's song is Cross the Bear by Division 1.1. This is episode 67. So stay tuned for a little bit more Division 1.1, and we'll be right back.
Welcome back to the SND podcast. You just listened to Across the Bear by Division 1.1. We're going to start off tonight's show, obviously, on a downer note. Unfortunately, we have to talk about the disaster that is the New York Knicks. We're not quitting on them, even though they're quitting on themselves and they're fighting in the locker room on saying who's quitting and why are you quitting and all that other fun jazz. It's just becoming more and more of a dumpster fire and even bigger disappointment in this season. I saw on Twitter today that when the Knicks play the Pacers in a couple weeks, that the fans are gonna boycott James Dolan and have a rally outside the Garden. That never works. He doesn't care.
Didn't they do the same thing with Isaiah Thomas?
Yeah, they did the same thing with Isaiah. They've done it all different kinds of sports. That stuff never works. Definitely going to be interesting to see with that. They're playing Minnesota tonight as we speak. They're in the middle of a 7-game losing. Oh no, yeah, they're in the middle of a 7-game losing streak, which we called 6-game losing streak last week.
Right, with with just more disasters in sight.
More disasters in sight, and honestly, the way they've been playing, they're just playing out the string, and they're not caring.
Well, at least they play Philly on Monday.
Yeah.
Yes, 2 games versus Philly coming up.
Has Philly win?
One?
Or are they still on that disastrous losing streak?
I think they're still on the losing streak.
Wow. Okay, well, that's rough. At least the Knicks, they're playing the Timberwolves are 1 game above 500. So.
If I remember correctly, I believe the over-under was 15 wins for the 76ers, so congratulations to them.
Yeah.
Because they hit 15 wins.
Congrats to them on that. The Knicks are just that dumpster fire that we've been talking about this whole entire season.
Wow, the 76ers did not win 1 game in the month of February.
Yeah, they didn't. They were on an epic 17-game losing streak.
They lost the last game of January.
Yep.
And then they lost every game in the month of February.
So the Knicks will have some breaks coming up.
3 games so far.
So the Knicks have Minnesota on Wednesday night as we're recording at 8 o'clock. At home for Utah on Friday. On the road for Cleveland, which the Knicks never win in Cleveland. So that's a mess. Then they are home Monday. Yeah, they're home Monday against Philly. So that's going to be very interesting to see what's going to go on with the New York Knicks with that disaster. More and more each day, if I was Melo, I'd leave. I would leave the Knicks. But then again, the Knicks offer more money. You know how that goes. More money normally leads the player to come.
Andre Drummond, 26 boards the other night against the Knicks. So Kevin Love should have 30.
Oh yeah, it's just embarrassing on how no one's playing with heart or effort It's just if there was a better option at coach, Woodson would have been fired 2 months ago.
There isn't.
But there isn't, like we've been saying all along. But now, honestly, I would rather have one of the assistant coaches coach. It's gotten to that point.
So you're going to go with the old-fashioned Herb Brooks intern for a week again?
Herb Williams, yeah.
Herb Williams, sorry about that.
It's all right. Unfortunately, if that was the way to go, maybe, but it's that bad.
Is it me or does he just always be the interim?
He is the interim coach. That's
always.
what he is. Actually, funny you mentioned Herb Williams today. The LIRR, you know how they do those goofy things? He actually did one of the PSAs when I was walking off the train.
Look out for the gap.
Yeah, no.
Or don't leave your bags.
No, it was the be kind to everybody else or rivalries or something. I guess that's because of the Knicks and Nets, and everybody's taking trains. I don't know. It was really funny. I was like, of all the people, they get Herb Williams to do it. I was like, okay.
Just a random person. Well, he's been around since Ewing's been on the team.
He's been around forever, but it's just one of those players. Hi, I'm Herb Williams, so the assistant coach of the New York Knicks. No one cares, as you say. It's really funny. I thought it was hilarious. Let's talk the Nets. At least the Nets are playing better. They're playing well. D. Will was playing great the other night. The Nets are just playing so much better lately, as well as not so much better. We all know how much they've been playing as of late. Who the Nets have this? Let me get that up real quick.
Nets have.
They're playing tonight against Memphis at home.
No Zach Randolph, by the way.
Which is good for the Nets. On the road again at Boston. That's Friday night. And then they have a back-to-back on Sunday and Monday. They play Sacramento and Toronto. The Nets are just catching great times to play certain teams. And it's good for them. They're finally above 500. So that's great to see, finally. Someone in New York basketball is over 500. Aaron Williams is playing really well as of late. So he's finally getting healthy and playing as good as he's possibly been. He's been on the highlight reel on watching SportsCenter the last couple of times. So let's see what else is going on. Of course, we have to mention that what's-his-face has picked up his second-day, 10-day contract. Yes,
good for him.
Good for him. So that means he's on the team for the rest of the season. It's just KG's been hurt a little bit. He's gonna miss he's missing his third straight game.
Don't worry, when they're down 3-2 in a playoff series, KG's not going to play the game anyway. Save him for Game 7.
Yeah, exactly. So, honestly, the Nets have been playing pretty decent as well. It's just they got to stay healthy, like we mentioned, for the whole entire season, with them being an older team. So, I don't know. They're already playing early in the first half of this game against the Grizzlies, and they're already playing well. So, hopefully they keep that up and they find a way to take the lead for the division, which they're right there.
Just about to do, right? I haven't heard Toronto in ages, so it must be just a matter of time.
Yeah.
3.5.
Yeah, they're 3.5.
Come on, the Knicks could do it. 13 games back?
Yeah.
Luckily for them, the East is just so bad.
Yeah, the East is terrible, right? If the playoffs started today, it would be Indiana, Miami, Toronto, Chicago, Washington, the Nets, Charlotte. The Charlotte Bobcats are going to make the playoffs. Are you kidding me? And then
they have to in honor of the last year of being called the Bobcats.
That just makes me angry. The Knicks.
Who was it who gave LeBron shit for scoring, excuse my language, 61 on the Bobcats?
I forget.
Someone gave him crap for it.
Whatever.
They gave him crap because
honestly,
he played a crappy defense.
Honestly, people just love hating on LeBron. Scoring 61 points is scoring 61 points. And honestly, when LeBron did it, so when Kobe scored 81, they were playing the Raptors, and they were just they were embarrassment as well. So it's such nonsense.
So we mentioned the 76ers haven't won a game since January, right?
Yeah.
Do you know that they're still 2 games better than the Milwaukee Bucks?
Yeesh.
We're currently 12-47.
That's rough. That's a rough season. At least for the Knicks, we have a couple games.
How do you lose every game in a month and you're still not the worst team in the league?
It's just one of those things. it's just one of those and honestly, I heard not a rumor, but people grumbling, and they'll honestly write about anything and say anything on Twitter. You take it for what it's worth. But Melo might try to go to Miami this year, the summer. I would honestly stop watching the NBA if.
Well, they're gonna talk Bosh out of. They're gonna talk Bosh into opting out so that they can get LeBron. Because you know what, I was actually talking to my manager about that, and I mentioned, I'm like, he can go to a team like OKC and basically stand wherever he wants and just wait for the ball. You do realize that? Because Westbrook is a ball handler and Durant's a ball handler. Melo could literally just stand there and wait for the ball. He could be what Harden was, just stand around and wait for the ball.
I'd be some team as well, too.
But he'll never play third fiddle. That's the problem.
No, absolutely.
But he'll be number 2. He'll be number 2 to LeBron next year.
Yeah, it's just, I would stop watching the NBA if that happened.
Where was it that they played recently? Was it LA? Did the Knicks play in LA recently?
A few weeks ago, a month ago.
Where'd they play? In Chicago. Bulls fan was wearing the
Melo, yeah. Let's talk about something else. March Madness is coming on. Let's
hold on. Before we move to March Madness, I have a good question for you.
Sure.
For the Bulls.
On the Bulls.
One of, if not the hottest team in the league.
Okay.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
Past couple of years have been basically Derrick Roseless, right?
Mm-hmm.
And have been awesome. Do you look to move him?
Derrick Rose? Nah. No one's gonna want him. First of all.
Okay.
Just the way he's been hurt. And
if they have their amnesty, do they use it?
No, they're
not.
And
see if they can get a smaller contract out of him.
If that's the case, they'll try it.
Because then you could sign another guy.
And honestly, the risk of losing Derrick Rose, I know he hasn't played in 2 years, but just knowing what he could do when he comes back, if he's ever the same again, is honestly one of the best players in the league, and you'd love to have that. So I don't think the Bulls would play with that kind of backfire with them. But then again, if he has one more knee injury, it's done. He has to. There's no way he's going to come back. It's definitely going to be interesting to see with Derrick Rose with that.
That was just my opinion, but you are right. Like I said before, it's March.
Now, college basketball is finally important.
Michigan won the most useless title, by the way.
Yeah, congrats. College basketball.
Regular season.
Yeah, college basketball is so pointless until right about now. So, finally, like Steve said, congrats to Michigan for winning the Big Ten title. So that's good for them. They've been playing really well.
It was like the first one since the 80s.
Well,
regular season title that they won.
Counting a Fab Four, they can't. They don't have those records anymore. That's why.
That's true.
So technically, since Fab Four, but they're not going to acknowledge it. So congrats to them on that. Syracuse Orange has been playing pretty awful. They went off the deep end. They lost to Georgia Tech on Tuesday night, which was like, wow. Yeah, this Syracuse is up for their occasional first round loss in the first or second round loss in the tournament. So it's going to be one thing it's going to be odd watching the Big East tournament this year and not see Syracuse, Notre Dame, and all those other perennial powerhouses.
It's the American...
No, in the basketball, it's still the Big East.
Oh, it is?
Yeah, basketball is still in the Big East, I guess. They say it every time, so I don't know. It's very interesting. They changed it for football, but they didn't really change it for basketball yet. By
the way, there's one player who deserves a lot of credit who nobody ever talks about. And I could argue that I think I'm going to make the argument. Maybe the most underrated player in the league.
In the country or the NBA?
NBA.
Okay, sorry.
Switching back for a minute. Klay Thompson.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. He's still one of the young. It's probably because he's still very young. But he's very
24.
It's probably why he's still underrated, but...
And also behind Curry.
Exactly. He's still behind Curry. But those two together, it's just dynamite. And they're fun to watch. Whenever they're on ESPN, I try to stay up as much as I can to watch them play. They're very excited to watch. They're both young, and it's just awesome to see how Steph Curry has grew up in front of our eyes from going to Davidson, and everybody's, he's just a mid-major, becoming that kind of stud in the NBA. It's really cool to see.
Remember how hyped everybody was about his brother?
Yeah.
Where is he now?
Nowhere.
No place. I think he's in Europe.
Well, he'll find a way. That's what happens when your dad's in the NBA, was a stud NBA player.
And then your brother's a stud.
Yeah, that's just what happens. Honestly, good for him too. He'll make it out of somewhere. He did play for Duke, so gotta count for something.
This is true. He did. Yeah, you mentioned March Madness. Check it out. SND Podcast on ESPN.com. Tournament Challenge. It's on our Facebook. It's on our Twitter. Keep in mind that if you go on and do a search, you will also find the SND Podcast show bracket. It is not the one we're using this year. That was last year's bracket.
Yeah, I did that mistake today before I signed on to the other one. My bad.
So, got an email? Make sure you sign up. If not, just sign up.
We will be posting it on Instagram, Twitter, Facebook. We're just going to pepper it until March Madness.
Correct.
So.
It is a week from Sunday?
So, yeah.
A week is Selection Sunday?
Yeah, something like that.
Or 2 weeks? One or the other. If it's in 2 weeks, if March is over.
No, it's a week. Yeah, it's in a week because it's normally around St. Patrick's Day.
Okay, so it's about a week. You might as well sign up now so that you're all prepared and you won't have to rush to do it. Because usually it's, 2 days after they start? The Tuesday after is the first 2 games?
Yeah.
The useless games?
Yeah, but they don't count that.
You know?
And some pools don't. Gotta look into that.
Our bracket is open to the public, so anybody can join.
Of course.
Anybody who wants to join can join. We had a lot of fun doing it last year, so hopefully we'll have a lot of fun doing it this year as well.
Yeah, exactly.
Let's go Knicks.
Yeah, I guess so. The Nets are playing well, so keep it up, Brooklyn. And next up, we got Dan from Wfan to talk about hockey.
But first, we're going to play a little more Division 1.1 Cross the Bear, and we'll be right back.
SND Podcast is in no way affiliated with, associated with, produced, or endorsed by the National Basketball Association or any of its affiliates.
On the ice or in the stands, rep your team with the new Sons of Hockey apparel, a brand new design by a longtime player, coach, and diehard hockey fan. Check out their 2014 lineup, available in men's and women's for all you hockey supporters. Follow us on Twitter or Instagram at Sons of Hockey, or look for Sons of Hockey Clothing on Facebook. Come join the Sons of Hockey family and show the world why hockey is the best sport on the planet. Welcome back to episode 67 of the S&D Podcast Show on the Schmuck Sports Network. Once again, Division 1.1, Cross the Bear. Right now, Dan and I would like to welcome our special guest for this evening, Dan Friedman. How you doing, Dan?
Hey, Dan. How's it going?
Good. How you guys doing?
Yeah, before we have you go to bed soon, just wanted to say, how was your first official NHL deadline day go?
Happy it's over. It was a very long, stressful day. I should say 48 hours, really. Yesterday was just as busy, if not busier for me. So, it was long. It was very stressful, but I'm glad it's over.
Before I like to mention, did you see that you were on Barstool Sports today?
I didn't. I didn't even notice.
Yeah, he actually screenshot Twitter, and you're actually on it. So you should go.
Really?
You should go check that out. I laughed because I was on it before I came over to Steve to watch the show. I'm like, oh, look, Dan's on Barstool Sports. So,
well, that's good to know.
Definitely check that out. So go on, Steve.
Before we get into the locals, biggest surprise trade in the last 48 hours, in your opinion?
I still think it's Marty St. Louis, honestly. Not that he was traded to the Rangers, the timing was the most surprising thing for me. I thought this was a deal that was totally going down in the summer. You had the Lightning, who, are second in the Eastern Conference, look like they're going to make a playoff run of their own. Ryan Callahan and the Rangers were reportedly down $200,000 apart on contract talks, so it looked like that was getting close. So to me, all signs pointed to, those two, and I even tweeted in the morning, I thought my two predictions for the day were that Callahan was going to re-sign with the Rangers and that the Lightning were going to hold on to St. Louis for now. And obviously the opposite happened. They ended up getting traded for each other. And so that for me was the biggest surprise of the day.
I would have to agree with you as well. I was talking to, I'm name dropping again, our good friend Andy. And we just had that feeling that it was so close that they were going to get a deal done. But I guess at the last minute, the last hour, they just couldn't do it, and they called Tampa. And they got the better of the. I think giving up the draft picks are going to be a little bit rough, but I think for both rental players, I think the Rangers got the better end of the deal. Unfortunately, we all know how much Ryan Callahan meant to the Rangers, but having a chance to add scoring to a top 5 scorer to the already decent scoring team that the Rangers have been so far this season, it's definitely a plus for them. Because right now it's a big cluster in the Metropolitan Division, and the Rangers need the goal scoring desperately. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, for me, I really, it's early to judge the trade. This is why I was telling people, I said, like, if the Rangers can contend for a Stanley Cup either this year or next year, win-win for them. But because that's a lot to trade for Marty St. Louis. But like you said, you're adding a great player to your lineup. So if you're in win now mode and you think you're going to contend for a cup, so that's a good move. But if not, if you don't end up contending, that's a lot to give up, and that's when it can backfire. So I think we have to really wait and see, before we declare a winner or a loser of this trade.
Of course, I feel, granted, the Rangers are going to miss Callahan in the locker room per se, but I think the Rangers are going to be able to find a replacement. They already have Derek Dorsett coming back from injury, who pretty much filled Ryan Callahan's role early in the season when Ryan was coming back from the shoulder injury. So I think the Rangers are going to be fine on the ice, but it's going to be more interesting to see what actually happens in the locker room and see the other young guys that were the assistant captains of the team step up in his place. So I think it was a good move at the end of the day. I know me and Steve had our arguments last week about it. Let's talk a little bit more with the Islanders, since you spend majority of the time focused on them. What do you think went through Garth Snow's mind the last 2 days? A lot of people were very disappointed on how the Islanders, they're just playing just as bad. On what he got back for Andrew McDonald, and unfortunately what he got back today for Thomas Vanek. Take us through both trades. We'll start with the Andrew McDonald trade. What was your initial reaction when that trade went through yesterday?
I was actually surprised by how much they got back for Andrew McDonald. I thought, originally when they started this process, the Islanders told teams they wanted their first-round pick. That was a lot to ask for, and general managers were generally not willing to pay that. So at some point, I think over the last 48 to 72 hours, from what I've heard, the Islanders lowered their price, and they wanted a second-round pick. They ended up getting a second-round pick and a third-round pick and a throw-in prospect who's a Long Island native. It's still nonetheless just another asset. They got three assets for Andrew McDonald as an expiring contract from Philly. I don't know if it was a good trade for Garth Snow. But with Vanek all along, I kept saying, you got to temper your expectations because A, everyone knows that Garth Snow's desperate. B, everyone knows that this guy is probably going to Minnesota on July 1st. So you're going to necessarily have that flexibility of, he might resign because it's not really there. So really, the value was going to go down well in advance of trade deadline day. Did I think he would get a first-round pick out of it? Yeah, I did. I was very surprised that he didn't get a first-round pick out of it. I think that he waited a little too long. From what I've heard, some of the offers that he turned down over the weekend may have actually been better than the offer that he ended up taking from Montreal State. He kind of thought that as teams got more desperate, the offers would improve. Instead, they got worse. That was a miscalculation probably on his part, assuming that's true. And it's tough to swallow. For me, really, the big mistake on his part will always be the initial Thomas Vanek trade. You put yourself in this spot to begin with. I didn't think it was necessary. I didn't think it should have. You either could have traded Matt Moulson for what ends up being more than the Islanders got for Vanek, or you re-sign him and you end up with a 30-goal scorer for the next however long he resigns for. I thought that would have been a smart move, and then you keep those assets and you trade them for maybe defensive or goaltending help. Now you can't do that either, and you're left with neither Vanek or Moulson. So really, this is a lose-lose for them, and this is kind of the doomsday scenario I was predicting at the time when they made the trade, and it's kind of been realized here. It's a very unfortunate situation for everyone involved.
I don't know about you, but I kind of felt like today, after seeing that trade that they made with Vanek, that Snow just likes to sit back and enjoy reading Isles' Twitter. And just does everything he can do to piss them off and see their reaction.
I don't know.
That's just my opinion.
Think he does it that way. I don't know. I think he just priced himself out. I'm sure he doesn't enjoy being the talk of the town in a bad way. I'm sure he doesn't enjoy the fact that that TSN and the NHL Network were basically ripping on him all afternoon. I'm sure that's not what he wants. But look, he's got a lot of soul searching to do because he's made some terrible moves all year long, and this is just the latest.
Where do the Islanders go from here? Where do you see them going? I mean, playoffs are basically out of the question, but this offseason, what's going to happen on Long Island?
they have to win this summer. They have to. I mean, the cap is going to go. We say this every year when the cap goes up, that they've got to spend X amount of money. But you know what? They always find some loophole. And I'm not sure what they're going to do this time. They don't have an Alexei Action coming off. They don't have a Rick DiPietro buyout that's fall back on right now. So they may actually have to spend some money, believe it or not. But where that remains to be seen. I do think that they will get a goaltender, whether it's signing Yaroslav Halak or Jonas Tiller, maybe trading for Cam Ward or James Reimer. I think they will go out and get a goaltender. They don't really have a choice. I think Garth Snow has been fairly proactive on that front over the last couple years. He's tried for Corey Schneider. We've seen evidence of that. I do think he goes in and gets goaltender, but he's got to make some serious moves. I mean, he can. That's the thing. He really can fix this. But right now, he doesn't get that benefit of the doubt that he will. And until he makes those moves, he has not earned that, in my opinion. I thought there was a time where I really liked Garth Snow as a general manager, and he made some very good moves, some very shrewd moves. And like the team, he's kind of got to turn a corner and figure out a way to take the Islanders to the next level. And he hasn't. He just hasn't figured that out. He doesn't. I don't think he quite gets it. And until that can change, the jury's really out for him at this point. I say my stance on Garth Snow has changed significantly over the course of the last several months.
Yeah, of course. A lot of people's perspective has changed over the last couple of months. It all started with the Vanek trade, how it wasn't the most popular trades because everybody had a feeling that it was going to be Ryan Smith all over again with Thomas Vanek, unfortunately. But that was hindsight 2020. I think it's more has to do with no one wants to come play for the Islanders. And the Islanders are pretty much essentially a small market team playing in New York City, and no one wants to play for the Islanders. And it's sad to say, especially with all the young talent they have, you would expect something to happen. Maybe the Islanders get some money and be able to actually spend on talent to play on the team. And you don't feel you get the commitment with the management team, like with the talent that young talent that the Islanders have. You'd want them to go out and get a decent veteran to help that team gel and become a playoff team instead of some bottom feeders that is not going to be as good and it's going to be on the bad case to play on the Islanders. I just don't get why the Islanders can't try to get those big name free agents. I know money. I'm sure they're not the richest team. We all know that, but the way they should be able to go out and get some good veteran leadership and good veteran presence for them to play with them. I just never fathomed that. Do you think the Islanders are gonna, once they move to Brooklyn, maybe in 2 years, that they'll start getting those kind of talent? That's pretty much what happened with the Brooklyn Nets. The Nets had no one. Then they started to flirt with the idea of them moving to Brooklyn. And now look at the Nets; they're a perennial all-star team, a perennial playoff team the last couple of years. So, what do you think is going to happen with the move to Brooklyn in 2 years?
I mean, for me, the biggest thing, and I'm not sure exactly how much there is out there to support this right now, but for me, I honestly think that an ownership change is going to come within the first couple of years of Brooklyn. Charles Wang is, I think he realizes that, this gig is not for him. He's claimed to lost hundreds of millions of dollars on the team. I wouldn't be shocked at all if that was the case, considering the arena deal, considering the raw deal he got with Nassau Coliseum. I think for a while he was committed. He really did want this team to stay. Any other owner would have moved the team out of town years ago. And, but it's reached a point where he's lost a lot of money, and I don't think he can, I don't blame him for cutting back because if you have to think about it from a business perspective, you need a horrible investment, and when you make a horrible investment, you don't keep pouring money into that horrible investment. And you can't really sell the team now because they're valued at under $200 million. If you move the team to Brooklyn, all of a sudden the value goes up. Maybe you put a little more money into the team, and then the value goes up, and then you sell. For Charles Wang, he is not in this in the long haul for me. To keep losing money, to keep going with this team to Brooklyn and bank on the fact that, he's going to make all the money back. He's not going to. For him, the best way to kind of recoup as much money as he can that he's lost is to sell the team, and I think that will happen in Brooklyn within the first couple of years. have little doubt. And I think with that, that's when you're going to see the turnaround. I don't think it's going to happen until Charles Wang sells the team, but I do think that that's an inevitability. I do.
Okay. Outside of the New York area, which trade surprised you the most?
Outside of the New York area, I mean, I guess Yaroslav Halak to Washington surprised me a little bit, only because Braden Holtby, I think, started to find his game a little bit recently. He's doing well for them in the playoffs, and Halak is a free agent, so it's an interesting move to me. Just trying to judge on what they're trying to get at here. But I liked it. It just came out of left field. We had heard. I would also put Brzgal to Minnesota in that category too. You thought maybe they were the ones who were going to go after Yaroslav Halak. They have an interesting goaltending situation themselves, and they decided that Ilya Brzgalov is their best insurance policy. I'm not so sure that that's a good idea. I'm not so sure that's going to work out for them, but we'll see what happens.
When you look at other trades like the Devin DeBunk to Montreal trade, things like that, do you think that the Islanders could have gone out there and made some sort of move for a goalie?
Well, the thing is also all these goalies that have been moved are free agents at the end of the year, and if you're Gus Snow, you'd almost rather just sign them at the end of the year in the summer than give up assets for them now and have them walk. These are guys that are hitting the market on July 1st regardless. So, I think, unless you're in a position where you're like some of these teams are, that they're in playoff contention and they kind of need that goaltending insurance, it doesn't really make sense for you to trade. The Islanders are a team that, regardless of what goalie they would trade for now, are not making the playoffs. So just, at this point, go to July 1st, see what you can do at that point. If you can find someone, great.
That's it. I'll believe it when I see it, kind of thing with the Islanders. It's been going through.
I don't blame you for that. And for me, like I told you, like I said, I don't think that they deserve any benefit of the doubt that they're going to do it. No. It remains to be seen if they will.
And I give so much credit for the people who remained optimistic throughout all this, just this craziness. It's just, this year has been an utter disaster just from the get-go. And every twist and turn so far, ever since a few weeks ago, ever since Tavares getting hurt as well, on top of everything, it's been a disaster couple of weeks for Islander Nation. What do you think with this current West Coast trip with the AKA Jiggs McDonald broadcasting? Do you think the hot streak's going to continue with Harry Rose taking care of Met games?
I don't know if it's related. It's kind of a funny stat that they play so well with Jiggs behind the mic, but I don't know. I really don't know what Jiggs checks in the Islanders anymore, to be honest with you. I think if available scrap for whatever points you can get, as long as young kids play well, that's all I'm really focused on at this point. You want to see Ryan Strome continue to play well. You want to see Brock Nelson, Anders Lee, and Calvin Mahan play well. That's the most important thing. Whether they win games or not, they're not making the playoffs. Just let the young kids play. See what they can do. Let them build some confidence, build up their stats, and focus on next year.
We actually saw you on Twitter last night. Get some Twitter heat last night. Everything okay in Twitter land with you? With Anders Lee and Ryan Strome?
I don't know. I'll admit it was a bit of a. I was poking a little fun. That Brock Nelson at Ryan Strome thing has been. Yeah, I guess it's been a theme for me from the beginning. It really started with the fact that Nelson made the team over Strome at a training camp. I thought Strome was better, so I thought it was a valid concern. And Brock Nelson, the first couple of weeks, looked a little off to me. He proved me wrong as the season went on, but Ryan Strome is going to be the better player. He does have more upside. I really don't understand why some Islander fans are insisting that Brock Nelson's better. And I guess, like I said, I could have. Maybe I was poking a little fun, It's in some of these situations it can get intense.
So did you and Dan from Hockey Buzz kiss and make up?
I don't know. I'm fine with him. He's a good guy, I know. Like that. You never you can let emotion into these things sometimes, but he's a good guy.
No, I know. I'm just teasing with you.
So basically, do you think with the Ryan Miller trade to St. Louis, it basically makes them a possible team that can fight the Blackhawks and possibly even the Ducks in the postseason?
Oh, absolutely. I think even with that before the Ryan Miller trade, I thought they were right up there. But you bring in a guy like that, it definitely ups your chances. I mean, if you look at how deep that team is on defense, and then you add Ryan Miller, and then you look at their forward group up front with Backus and Tarasenko and Oshie. It's just they have so much depth. I think that team is up there with just about anybody in the league. I think they're a legitimate Stanley Cup contender.
Absolutely, I definitely like that move. Just how they've been playing, how good defensively that team has been, and how they have those young pieces to build around on the offensive side with TJ Oshie, just to name a few players. It's going to be really interesting to see. Maybe not this year, but with Ryan Miller and goalie, he could definitely easily steal a couple games, especially on how good their defense is. I could definitely see them contending for the cup even more so than what they were a couple months ago. So I definitely like that move. What do you think about Roberto Luongo going back to Florida? That's a
I totally forgot about that one because you asked me what the most surprising move of the day was. That trade happened yesterday, but I'd say that was the biggest surprise. Period. Roberto Luongo going to the Flyers. I thought it was interesting because you had the whole fact that Luongo sat for the Heritage Classic, and it's still unclear as to whether they were sitting him because the trade was in the works or because. Or if the fact that he sat was what ultimately pushed Luongo to maybe ask for a trade. It's hard to really tell. But the Canucks, I mean, it's amazing. Their fall from grace. I mean, the last couple of years they were almost viewed as like an upper echelon team. A team that was going to Super a cup, and it's almost like they're throwing in the towel here. There's talks. They traded Luongo. They're talking about trading Ryan Kessler. The Sedins are starting to age. The roster in general is starting to get older. So you feel like their window's almost passing. And I read something recently actually that from Dave Lozo, and I thought it was an interesting point. The Canucks are almost doing what the Lightning and Rangers did with when they brought in John Tortorella. They had a younger roster, and they were kind of molding it, and they felt like John Tortorella was the right guy to teach them to play hard and defensive commitment and really rein the younger team in. So maybe the Canucks are preparing to do the same thing here, get a little younger, and it kind of molds into Tortorella's identity so you can rein them in and put them together as a team.
Hey, if I was a Canuck fan, I would like it, especially seeing what Tortorella did for the Rangers. Granted, it wasn't a Stanley Cup or anything like that.
They were a couple of games away. They were a couple of games away from the Stanley Cup.
They were a couple games away, and they did the same exact thing with Tampa, and he won a Stanley Cup. So all things are leading to the right direction if I was a Vancouver Canuck fan.
Absolutely. And if you're a Panthers fan, this has to have you excited. You have a new ownership group in there. They're making a big splash here. And, I guess that's not so much of a surprise when you have new ownership. They'd like to do that. But, they just signed Brad Foy. So the financial commitment appears to be there. And, I think we can see more moves to come. The Panthers, they're going to go for it in the next couple of years, I think. And, good news for them. Win-win for Panthers fans, absolutely.
I do see them going for it in the next couple of years. I mean, we've seen it before out of them. I mean, they went on a spending spree a couple of years ago. Are you surprised Brodeur didn't get moved?
Brodeur, not so surprised. I mean, it had to be for the right fit. I didn't think the right fit really existed. And, it would have been tough, honestly, and also for Brodeur to leave the Devils. Like I said, it would have to have been for the right move. I didn't think it was out there. The Devils, I think, are very comfortable with their Schneider-Brodeur tandem, and they think they can kind of make a playoff run here. So I feel like they're going to want both goalies available just in case.
Okay, definitely. So with the season winding down, what do you expect for the final 20 games for the rest of the NHL? Any big surprises? With the playoff push on full speed ahead? What do you expect for the rest of the season for the local teams and the rest of the NHL?
Well, for the local teams, it'll be interesting. The Rangers right now are kind of fighting for their playoff lives. They're in the playoffs, but they're 1 point out of not being in the playoffs. So they're gonna, hopefully the trade Marcioni, hopefully that gives them the boost they need. The Devils are going to be fighting for a spot. The Islanders are just going to be fighting to survive. Maybe the only thing they're competing for right now is the right to pick Aaron Ekblad. But for the rest of the NHL, it's going to be an exciting sprint to the end. It always is. You have teams. You have some interesting playoff races. You have, for me, the most intriguing story is really going to be the Colorado Avalanche. Can they really keep this up? they really started off scorching hot, and I feel like there's been a significant regression, and they're gonna make the playoffs, but like you almost feel like they're the one team in the dance that like shouldn't really be there, and I feel like they're just gonna get destroyed in the first round. But it'll be interesting to me. Can the Avalanche kind of make a run here and surprise people? That will be the biggest surprise for me.
I could see that, definitely. It's just right now with the Metropolitan Division, well, how much that is in a cluster for the second and third spot. It's really going to be interesting to see which team's going to stay the hottest and make those two playoffs and not have to worry about the wild card spot. And it helps out now that Detroit's actually pretty much giving up on the season so far, unfortunately, ending season to Pavel Datsyuk. So that definitely helps out for the second wild card spot. So one of those teams is going to be able to try to fight for it. So luckily for them, they'll have a better shot of getting that second wild card spot. That maybe both wild card spots might come out for the Metro, even though the Maple Leafs are holding on to the first one for their dear lives right now.
Now that the trading deadline passed, Dan, about 20 games left. Stanley Cup prediction.
I'm gonna go with St. Louis, Boston. That's just my take. I think that's what it's gonna be. I think those are the two deepest teams in each conference. I mean, maybe you want to switch in Chicago for St. Louis. I think Anaheim is close, but I don't think they're there yet. I think Boston. We look at Pittsburgh every year, and they're always up there. But when it comes to the playoffs, they're never quite up to par. And I don't see why this year would be any different. To be honest with you, I think Boston is the most complete team in the East, and they will show that in the playoffs.
I agree with you with Boston. It's definitely. They're just battle tested in the playoffs, and they're just built for the playoffs. They're having a great regular season, but once the playoffs start, they have the grit, and they do find that timely goal scoring, which is clutch, especially in the playoffs. And Tuukka Rask, who's plays great for the Bruins. So I agree with you on that, and with St. Louis. That's pretty nice. That's a nice bold prediction, considering, especially with Ryan Miller as the goalie now, anything could possibly happen with that. So I actually like those. Good picks on those.
Thank you.
You don't think Lucci is going to blow a playoff game for them and cost them the playoffs?
Nah.
He seems to do that a lot for them.
Hey, I'd take him on the Islanders any day.
Yeah, he's too much of a rough guy. At Dan Friedman on NYI now, correct?
D. Friedman on NYI, yeah.
D. Friedman on NYI. Check out his tweets. Article coming out about the trade deadline, or?
Absolutely, probably tomorrow. It's gonna be interesting. I kind of need to sit down and just collect my thoughts. If I wrote it tonight, it probably would be a little harsh, but cooler heads will prevail. I'll write it out tomorrow, and we'll see how it goes.
So make sure to look out for that. Make sure to keep checking out his articles.
Absolutely.
Dan, thanks for joining us.
Thanks, Dan. Get some sleep.
No problem. Thanks for having me on.
No problem. Have a good one.
Thanks, Dan.
SND Podcast is no way affiliated with, associated with, produced, or endorsed by the National Hockey League or any of its affiliates.
Welcome back to the S&D Podcast. You just listened to Cross the Bear, obviously by Division 1.1. I would love to thank Dan Friedman for coming on, talking a little NHL hockey with us. Please check him out on all his articles on Wfan and everything else that he does on Twitter as well. He's a great read. He's a good follow on Twitter. Definitely a great guy to if you're into the Islanders and everything else hockey, he's definitely a place to go. I was following him throughout the whole trading deadline, and of course every game that I don't get to watch a lot of Islander games, so it's great to see up to date with him every Islander game with each passing game goes by, especially on how bad they've been so far. So with that, Steve, take us home.
March Madness.
Yep. Please make sure you sign up. This should be fun this year. We had 40 people last year to sign up, so
yes.
Hopefully we get as many people as possible like last year. So we'll be posting it on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. You know the rest. So
also at D Friedman on NYI is the Twitter handle. Okay. So make sure to check him out on that. I'm sure he's working on an article about Vanek as we speak.
Yeah, definitely.
Also new at SND_podcast on Snapchat.
Yeah, of course. And by the way, don't forget to look out for the BlueLionStation.com. Danny's been. I've talked to Danny about the St. Louis trade, and she seems to love it. So that's good for that. So be sure to check out with that stuff, and of course our friends at Eyes and Isles. I know Andy. I'm sure Andy took the day off today and make sure he was home in front of his TV, in front of Twitter and everything else. So that should be that. Anyway, it was a fun show tonight. I hope you guys enjoy. See you guys next week.
Have a good one, guys.